Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Lauk and this is play along tutorial for Musette in D major from the notebook for Anna-Magdalena Bach by a known composer. Before we start, let me play just two measures. Don't you love it already? It's such a energetic, such a happy piece. If you didn't know it before, you should fall in love with it right now. So it's gonna help you achieve freedom in your left hand because you cannot play this piece, especially left hand, being locked down and tied to a certain place. Because look how freely your left hand's supposed to move. Look at this pinky jump from measure 4 to 5. So my point is just make sure to practice your left hand first. So we're going to start from very beginning. Go ahead and follow with your left hand. We're going to start incredibly, painfully slowly. And we're going to not do any repeats for now. Just play straight through this piece. Okay? Are you ready? Hope you are. So this is your tempo. 1 knee and 2 knee and ready and go. Were you able to follow along? Good. So, if you can feel it, you will feel that, if you can feel, you feel that. So, anyway, what I was meaning to say, it's you could feel that this piece repeats actually. There's a middle part, that it's a new material, and the outer parts, they're repeating. So, once you lock down the first 8 measures, that means you're going to learn almost 2/3 of the piece. So let's actually concentrate. We're going to start from measure 1 and we're going to work on measure 1 to level 8 and to measure 8 first. And because it repeats again, starting from measure 21 to the end, so that's going to save you some time. So just learn the first 8 measures, okay? We're going to start from left hand. And what you're going to practice is this, the end of measure 2 going to measure 3 like this. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. You see what I'm doing? Instead of doing the awkward wrist turn, you have to move. You see what your third thing you're supposed to be doing? Like this, not the wrist turn. Exclude this. Don't do this. But what you're supposed to do is this. 1, 3, 1, 3. Okay, and now you're going to do a little bit more. You're going to play D and then okay. Another thing we're going to practice separately. We're going to practice end of measure 4 to measure 5. So we're going to literally go from pinky to pinky like this. 5, 5, 5, 5. And what is important, don't try to play it when you landed on it. You're going to miss it. Make sure your pinky is on D and then jump off it, then move it to another D. Make sure you're there and then jump off it. Don't try to play it as you land because it's either going to be uncontrolled sound or you're just simply going to miss it. So Make sure it's pinky, then you find it, and pinky again. So jump off, jump off, jump off. So it's not like this from the top, from the top. No, that's the wrong movement. So make sure you're there, and then you jump in off that. Practice it till you have it absolutely controlled, because otherwise it's going to be difficult to play hands together if you don't have it under control. Because your right hand, look what it does. It jumps even greater distance from D to A. So all the jumps, you have to practice them separately. So where do you see jumps? You definitely see them from measure 4, end of measure 4, to measure 5, right? Also, there's another jump from measure 2 to measure 3 when you're playing this, right? Same thing. Make sure your third fingers are F sharp, and and only then you have to play. Okay? Third fingers there, play. So let's actually practice the second part of measure 2 extremely slowly, so you can practice that like this. Make sure you're there. You see what I'm doing? I'm moving my third fingers in, okay? And they in on F sharp, okay? So, also your right hand is gonna do some things, like, for example, from measure 8 to measure 9, when you jump from your first finger here to your second finger on C sharp, okay? So what you also can practice your jumps backwards. How do you do that? Instead of going from D to C sharp, you're gonna go from C sharp to D, like this. Oops, I missed it. So practice it until you feel very comfortable. Same thing with the left hand. When you're doing something like this, you're gonna practice backwards. F sharp, D, D. F sharp, D, D. That's your beginning of measure 3, and you're going backwards to the end of measure 2 and to the second beat of measure 2. So F sharp, D, D. Okay? So that's something to practice. Stop this video and practice those jumps backwards. Let's also practice left and right hand jumps from measure 4 to measure 5, again backwards. So we're gonna start from the measure 5, and we're gonna go to pinky in left hand and first finger in right hand to D, like this. Whoops. So make sure you're there first. Your hand needs to be there first. Not your fingers. Your entire hand has to move in. So make sure your elbows are unlocked. They move in freely, okay? Like this. Like you were a bird. Not a bird. Let's say a beautiful swan, okay? So, and the most difficult jump is going to be 5-5, like this. 5-5, okay? So again, we're going to practice backwards from the beginning of measure 5. We're going inside, okay? So after you feel uncomfortable with those jumps, you can make sure and add one more note before that and practice in the right order. So we're going to start on the second beat on measure 4. So we're adding F sharp, D, and going to this jump, okay? F sharp, D. Okay, good. We're going to do the same for measure 2 to 3. We're going to start from second beat. We're going to go like this. So we're adding just a little bit. And anytime you feel you don't have it yet, you don't feel comfortable, always go back and practice it backwards. So going from F sharp, then you go in this way. So from third finger, you go into what? First finger's here. So F sharp, F sharp. So it's a little bit puzzling if you didn't do it before, if you don't know how to do it. But that's the way to practice. So from the beginning of measure 3 to backwards to second beat, to the end actually of second beat of measure 2. And again, see what I'm doing? I'm first arriving. I'm making sure I'm there. And only then I'm playing. Okay, now we're going to try it in the normal way. We're going to start from the second beat of measure 2. And we're going to go to the first beat of measure 3 like this. And... make sure not to hold on to any notes, okay? Because you're going to be late. You remember you have to move freely. Okay, after you worked all those jumps in measure 1 to measure 8, and you're feeling comfortable with this section, it's time to move on to another difficult section. Measure 9 to measure what? Measure 20. Okay, so that's quite a lot, okay? And what we're gonna do, again, we're gonna work backwards. We're gonna start from a section that actually goes into measure 21. So we're gonna start at measure 20. We're gonna play, like I said, that's another big jump, okay? And we're gonna practice this backwards. So last beat of measure 20 is A, right? And the first measure, measure 21, is those two notes, A and D, with your pinkies, okay? So in left hand, you're jumping pinky, 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 and you're doing tenuto and then staccato, okay? That's another difficult part of this piece because the touch and hands are different, so you cannot play. That's how you most likely will hear it. So you have to make sure your right hand is legato, your left hand is staccato. So many things to pay attention to. So that's why you should really learn hands separately. First, making sure you're following all those little things along. Okay, again, so what we're practicing this jump. And again, we're doing it backwards. So measure 21 to the end of measure 20. Like this. Many, many times until you can be very confident with this jump. Okay, so now we're gonna add beginning of measure 20 and we're gonna go to measure 21. Move. And you see, even though I have tenuto on the last beat of measure 20, I'm letting this go because if I don't, I'm gonna be late on my first beat. So you have to treat your last beat of measure 20 as an eighth note tenuto. So it's going to be off. Move. Okay? Move. So really make sure it's an eighth note with tenuto with an eighth rest. Okay? So now we're going to do another tricky section. We're going to go from measure 18 to measure 20 to measure 19 to measure 20. Okay? We're going to start with left hand first. And watch the fingers. So it's 5, 1, 3, 2, 1, 5, 2. So this one is easy actually. So 19 and 20, it's just within the A major 5-finger pattern is this. But what is tricky is measure 18 when you go in 5, 1, 3, 2, 1. 5, 1, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Also, your right hand, look at this. You're going from 4, which you have to play not connected to the next note. You're playing 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, and then 1, 4. Okay, this is something to get used to, so you have to practice this separately. 4, 2, 1, 4, 4, 2, 1, 4, 4, 2, 1, 4. Okay, and the next measure, measure 19. Beginning is easy, but then what do you have to do? You have to jump to your 4-finger, or actually you can do 3. I prefer 3 because it's easier to navigate. Okay, so I would say go from 1, 3, 2, So first do this, and then this. Okay? So what are we skipping? We're skipping this. We're skipping this. The D on the end of the B2, measure 19. Okay, so now we're gonna do it all in a row. And starting from measure 19, 1 and 2. 1, 3, 2. Okay. 3, 2. Okay. So again, now we're gonna do measure 18, 19, and 20 in the row, starting from measure finger 4 on 18. And 2, 1, 4, 3, 3, 2. Also make sure legato, staccato, 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 legato, staccato to neutral. And whoa. So I bet the section from 18 to 21 is going to cause you the most problems for that entire piece. Okay. Now we're going to move on to another pretty difficult section, which is starting at measure 13. What is happening there? Because in left hand, you just have jumping octaves, but it's piano. So you have to make sure while you're playing it, you touching your key very lightly. Because if you do this, you're not going to achieve piano. Make sure you do it lightly and you keep your hand pretty close to the keys. Okay, after you are comfortable with your left hand, let's work on measure 13, right hand. What does it do? It jumps all around and it does this. 5, 4, 1, 3, staccato, 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 5, staccato, 1, 3, staccato, 5, 4. Okay. Ooh, look at this. So it's 5, 4, 1, 3, 2, 5, 4, 5, 4, 1, 3, 2, 5, 4. How can you practice this to make yourself comfortable? Again, try to play it backwards and know that measure 13 and 14 and 15, is exactly the same as measure 15 and 16. So once you learned 13 and 14, you're going to be good for 15 and 16. Okay, so let's practice it backwards. We're going to start from the last note in the right hand of measure 14. We're going to go G sharp to A, then to C sharp, then to D, then to E, then to D sharp, then to E. Okay? And for now, we're all going to do staccato. I know it's legato and staccato, but for now, we're going to do everything staccato. Again, backwards. G sharp, A. This is C sharp, then you move into D, then to 1, and then to D sharp to E. Okay? Let's try it one more time. And 4, 5, 2, 3, 1, 4, 5. Make sure you got this. 4, 5, 2, 3, 1, 4, 5. Okay, now we're going to do it in the right order. And we're going to do it piano, softly. And 1, 3, staccato, 5. Same thing. 1, 3, 2, 5, 4. Okay? So that's basically it. Okay? Now, what else is difficult about this piece? I bet there's going to be something. Oh, this switch in measure 12. So your right hand is legato and your left hand has to go to the left. What a surprise. You see what I'm doing? I'm bringing my hand towards the end of the jump and then I'm playing. Never backwards. Never try to reach with your finger because you're going to miss it. Your hand has to be there first. Your elbow has to be there first. And only fingers supposed to follow, okay? I know it's hard to notice, but if you look at the virtuosos playing piano, you will see whenever they do a big jump or a big run, their hands are actually like a millisecond ahead of the sound already there, right? If they have to play something like this, you see, they already hear, and sound is not happening yet, but they're ready. So the same thing here. Okay, so make sure your hand is before your fingers, okay? Before the sound happens, your hand is there. Okay, you probably heard enough. You can stop this video right now and you can actually practice some of the things we talked about. But if you're ready to go, let's play it again a little bit faster. Again, no repeats. And I bet now you probably want to work a little bit more on the right hand. 1 and a 2 and a ready and a go. Softer. So if you can play hands separately, freely in this tempo, you're already good to go. You can try and put hands together. But if you still feel uncomfortable, feel free to go back to the slower tempo. Make sure you got this down before you're putting hands together. So now let's see what else can we achieve in this piece. So whenever you see crescendo, in this edition you will see crescendo in measure 17. How do you start playing measure 17? So most of the people, when they see crescendo, they start pressing immediately because, oh, you have to get louder. But actually effective crescendo always starts with a smaller and softer sound. So you can grow, okay? Imagine if you yelled before, ah, and you have to yell again, ah, so it's not gonna make much of an effect. But if you're going from the whispering to speaking louder, that's so much more effective. So make sure, starting in measure 17, you're starting softly, and you only grow in measure 18 and 19 and 20, okay? So now let's go back and look at the tempo. Allegretto, what does it mean? So allegro is fast, and whenever we attach suffix etto to something, it's gonna make the tempo less, okay? So if it was fast tempo, it's not going to be so fast. If it was a slow tempo, for example, largo, and you attach etto, larghetto, it's not going to be so slow anymore. So etto is actually diminishing the quality to whatever it attached to, okay? So let's start from the very beginning. And what is allegretto? It's a pace. So if allegro would be fast, so you would be running like this, right? Or like this. Da, tiga, daga, da, tiga, daga, daga, da. So that's pretty fast. Allegretto is not going to be so fast. Di, daga, daga, di, daga, daga, diga, da, pa, 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 da, pa, diga, da. I'd say that's your allegretto. Of course, there's no metronome marking, and you can guess what the actual allegretto was meant by this unknown composer. But so I think what is comfortable for you, what you can perform this piece comfortable, because it can be this. Like a heavy on the countryside dance, okay? Or it can be like this. Okay? So let's try faster tempo if you already feel comfortable with the two previous ones. The very slow one, the moderate one, and now the fastest one, okay? 1 and a 2 and a ready and a go. I suppose you had some fun with this piece. Another thing, before I let you go, I'll let you off hook. Make sure when you practice it faster, you have to be even lighter. If you could practice it with more stronger touch. Whenever you're moving faster, you have to let it go. You cannot press anymore, because what is going to happen? First of all, you're going to get all the notes overlapped if you're not letting them go immediately. You see, after you played the note, you have to let it go, because the hammer hit the string. You cannot change the sound after you hit the string. After the hammer hit the string, you're not in control of the sound. You have to let it go, okay? It cannot be all. Although it's forte, always this is going to be stressed more. And all the 16th notes are going to be much, much lighter. So 16th notes means light. Also, another practice and suggestion, you can speak the rhythm first. Pie, huckleberry, pie, huckleberry, huckleberry. Or apple, 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 pie, huckleberry, pie, huckleberry. What's your name? Apple, pie. So what I'm doing with that, all my quarter notes are pies. All my groups or 16th notes like this, taka taka, 4 16th notes are gonna be huckleberries in this case. You can also go for with Pocatella, Super Goblin, Butterfinger, whatever works with a four syllable word. And this one could be wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Or crispy rice. Or crispy treats. Whatever works for you. And the groups of 8th notes could be pizza or apple, apple, apple. Okay? Have fun with this piece. Good luck, and I hope to see and hear you perform in this one.